Asterisk, the wind tore through the canyon like a warning, whistling past sun-bleached rocks and jagged memories. Dust lifted in lazy spirals. Somewhere overhead, a hawk screamed, or maybe it was something older, more human. Either way, Wade Callahan didn't flinch. Asterisk, his horse was limping now, left front shoe cracked on the shale 3 miles back. But Wade didn't dismount. He rode with the ease of a man who'd stopped needing comfort years ago. Dust clung to his coat. The collar was frayed. His left sleeve was pinned at the elbow. Beneath it, a wound still weeping under the bandages. He hadn't changed in 2 days. His skin was burned where the war never stopped. Asterisk, he didn't speak. Hadn't in 3 days. But a name echoed inside him louder than thunder. Rachel. And the baby that might have been. The photograph in his coat pocket, worn, rain-streaked, bent at the corner, stayed closest to his heart. Even closer than the pistol beneath his ribs. Asterisk, the trail curved hard near a stretch of crumbling bluff, where rock slides had eaten the path and trees grew at odd, skeletal angles. That's where he heard it. Not a gunshot, not a scream. Something worse, the groaning creak of splintered wood. A wagon axle dying. Asterisk, Wade blinked once and tugged the reins. The horse resisted. The air carried the scent of something burnt. Metal, maybe leather. And behind it, something else. Panic. She stood beside the wagon with one hand gripping the wheel and the other clutched to her belly. Her dress was soaked in sweat down the spine. Mud stained her hem and the edge of her. Shawl was torn where thorn bushes had clawed at her. Her hair, once pinned, now hung damp against her cheeks. Asterisk, she was trying to lift the front of the wagon, all the weight of the supplies dragging it backward down a slope. The wheels spun, loose on the axle. Her hands slipped. She staggered. Asterisk, Wade didn't say a word. He dropped down from the saddle, walked slow, and took hold of the frame. His boots dug into the dirt. With one heave, he lifted the nose of the wagon high enough for her to wedge a rock beneath. Asterisk, the woman didn't speak either. Just breathed, fast, panicked, sharp, then slow. One hand stayed on her belly. The other grabbed a rope to lash the axle straight. Her wrist trembled. Asterisk, for the next hour, they worked like ghosts. He patched the harness. She gathered kindling. He braced the wheel with a sawed branch. She mended a split in the reins with rough twine. They never asked for names. As the sun melted behind the ridgeline, Wade lit a small fire. She sat across from him, arms wrapped around her knees, mouth tight with the kind of silence that had weight to it. Grief had lived there a long time. He knew the look. He'd seen it in mirrors. Asterisk, from time to time, she'd glance toward her satchel, always, making sure it hadn't slipped into the brush. It was thick canvas, heavy-looking, the kind of bag that held more than supplies. Asterisk, when he stood to leave, she reached for her canteen and set it in the dirt beside his boot. A quiet thank you, not with words but gesture. Asterisk, Wade nodded once, reached down for his coat, and turned back toward the trail. He'd taken no more than 10 steps when the wind shifted, catching the flap of her satchel and peeling it open. Papers spilled, one sheet catching air like a dying bird. Asterisk, it fluttered toward him, landing against his boot. Asterisk, he reached down, picked it up, a yellowed Marshals Wanted poster, creased, dirty, printed months ago. Wanted, Sarah E. Lias for the murder of Federal Marshal W. Lias, armed and dangerous. $500 reward, dead or alive. The face was hers. Wade looked at the image, then at her. She'd frozen, no breath. Just 2 eyes across firelight, wide and trembling. He didn't speak. He didn't reach for his gun. Asterisk, he folded the paper, walked to her slowly, held it out. She took it without a word. Their fingers didn't touch, but something passed between them. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. Asterisk, and then he turned, climbed back into the saddle. The horse grunted, shifted under him. Wade tugged the reins left, then right, his eyes fixed on the black horizon ahead. Asterisk, behind him, the fire crackled. The woman sat motionless, hand on her belly. He didn't look back, but the wind carried something faint behind him. Not a word, not a name. Just the quiet breathing of someone trying not to cry. Asterisk night swallowed the trail. And Wade Callahan disappeared into it, one more outlaw riding toward the edge of the world, haunted not by the law, but by the face of a woman who looked too much like Mercy. Asterisk. The trees changed as he climbed north. Pines grew thicker, darker. The wind lost its whistle and became something heavier, more like breath. For 2 days Wade rode without speaking, stopping only to water the horse and let the quiet settle into his bones. The photograph never left his coat pocket. He touched it sometimes without meaning to. Like a wound that wouldn't scab. Asterisk on the third night. Just as the sky began to bruise with stormlight, he found an old ridge cabin long abandoned. By the look of it, roof half collapsed, porch eaten by termites, windows clouded by spider silk and time. The kind of place no one looked for and nothing missed. Asterisk he made a fire just outside. Not big, enough to warm a tin of beans, dry his boots. He didn't hum, not this time. Just listened to the crackling and the forest breathing around him. Asterisk then came the sound. Asterisk soft at first, like someone walking without wanting to be heard. But he'd lived too long not to notice a false step, a broken twig. A held breath, he turned, slow, and there she was. Asterisk Sarah Elias, mud up to her knees. Hair soaked, matted to her cheek. She had no coat, only a wool shawl nearly ripped in half. Her face was pale beneath layers of rain. Her belly round her now rose and fell like she'd climbed straight out of hell. She didn't speak, just stood at the edge of the light, one hand around her stomach, the other holding her side where blood had started to seep through her dress. Asterisk Wade didn't ask how she found him. He just stepped aside. Asterisk she crossed the light and sat by the fire without looking at him. Her fingers trembled as she reached toward the heat. Rain dripped from her sleeve. Her breathing was shallow, but even. Asterisk he tore the hem from an old shirt and passed it to her. She pressed it to her side in silence. Asterisk by morning the rain had eased. He handed her the rest of the beans and a flask of water. She ate like she hadn't tasted anything real in days. Asterisk later that day she slept. Wade sat beside the cabin's doorway, carving a piece of pine into nothing in particular. His knife moved slow, rhythmic. The sound was comforting, honest. Asterisk when she woke, she didn't cry out. Just stared at the sky, then at him. Asterisk, I didn't think you'd let me stay. Wade didn't answer. I followed the burn marks from your last fire, she said, voice hoarse. Took a guess. Still nothing. She didn't push. Just nodded. Then softly, thank you. Asterisk that night she sat beside him on a broken step, her hands folded like prayer over her belly. She watched him roll a smoke. He never lit it. Just held it between his fingers like a habit he hadn't yet let die. Asterisk, you saw the poster, she said. You know what I did. Asterisk the fire crackled. He didn't blink. Asterisk, I didn't kill him because I was angry. I killed him because he was going to kill me. Her voice wavered, then steadied. He was a marshal, yes, but a monster first. The night wind didn't move. He beat me every time I spoke out of turn. Said the child would be raised by the law, not some filthy woman with feelings. She laughed once, bitter and broken. So one night I waited till he was asleep, shot him in the heart, took a saddlebag and ran. Asterisk Wade didn't flinch. Just tossed another log onto the fire? Asterisk she lowered her head. I thought if I could find my daughter he took her, you see I'd make it right somehow. Still, he said nothing. But later, after she'd gone to sleep inside the shell of the cabin, he reached into his coat, pulled out the photo, held it in the firelight. His wife, Rachel, smiled faintly. The child in her arms had a scar on his cheek. Wade never got to learn how it got there. Never got to hold the boy. He stared at it long, then folded it again. Slipped it back into the coat pocket like it belonged to the silence now. Asterisk the next. Morning, they broke camp together, no plan spoken, no pact made. But she followed him as he walked. And when he looked back to check the trail, she was still there. Asterisk they crossed a dried creek bed by noon, and by dusk they'd reached the foothills near the Black Forest. It was quieter here, wilder, the kind of country where wanted people became. Dust and stories, asterisk that night they camped beneath an outcropping of red stone. She mended the hole in her shawl. He boiled pine bark into tea. No one said much, but on the fourth morning, as frost still clung to the grass, she found something. A small post near a crumbled chapel. And nailed to it, fluttering weakly in the breeze, was a child's drawing. Faded ink, stick figures, one woman. One little girl, a tiny dog. Across the bottom, "Mama, come find me." Asterisk Sarah's knees buckled. She dropped beside the post, fingers tracing the lines like they were holy scripture. Asterisk Wade stood back. Gave her space. Asterisk, "I left her with my sister in Elgin," she whispered. "When I ran, I told her I'd come back for her. This was our place. She must have left it for me." She looked up at him, eyes full of something desperate and cracking, and then a shot rang out. Wade shoved her down, pulled his revolver before his brain could even catch up. Behind the tree line, smoke curled, then a voice. "You know what I like about ghosts?" Asterisk, the voice was gravel, smirking. "They don't shoot back?" Asterisk, from the woods stepped a man in a brown duster, hat low, rifle slung casually. A bounty hunter. Scar down the left jaw, belt full of blood money. Name was Ridge, though Wade didn't say it out loud. Asterisk Ridge grinned. "Hell, Wade Callahan, and here I thought you were dead in Georgia." Wade stood still. Ridge raised the rifle slightly, not quite aiming. "And the girl? Well now, I was only tracking her." "But two ghosts for the price of one?" Asterisk Sarah, behind the post, reached slowly for Wade's saddlebag. Her eyes locked on the spare pistol tucked just under the flap. Asterisk. The wind shifted, dust rolled in, and Wade narrowed his eyes. Asterisk. Wade didn't move, neither did Ridge. The kind of silence that falls before gunfire hung between them. Tight, dry, brutal. Sarah's breath was shallow behind the post, one hand already smeared with dirt, the other inching toward the saddlebag. Asterisk Wade's fingers twitched once at his side. "Not a draw? Just memory?" Asterisk Ridge licked his lips. "You still fast, Callahan?" Asterisk Wade didn't answer. But his eyes flicked once toward Sarah. Ridge didn't notice. "Or maybe he did and didn't care." Asterisk. "I could kill you now," Ridge said. "Drag your bones down to Austin and still have time for supper." Sarah's hand closed around the pistol, and then the air snapped. Wade spun. Drew his revolver in a single breath, but Ridge was already firing. Buck exploded from a tree behind them. Wade dove sideways, rolled hard, mud tearing through his coat. His shot missed wide, meant more to move than kill. Asterisk Sarah fired next. The sound cracked like a bone in the stillness. Her first bullet missed. The second grazed Ridge's thigh. He shouted, stumbled, raised the rifle. Wade took the opening, one shot. Asterisk. Right through the chest. Ridge dropped. The rifle clattered on a root. His body slumped against a rock, mouth hanging open like he had something left to say, but the canyon took his voice before it left his lungs. Wade didn't speak. He just stood, breathing, gun lowered. His shoulder was bleeding again, torn where the fresh bandage had split under the roll. He touched it once. Didn't flinch. Asterisk Sarah leaned back against the post, still holding the gun with both hands, like it might shake itself out of her grip if she let it. Her cheeks were white. Lips cracked. Asterisk Wade walked to her, took the pistol gently. Then crouched and pulled a cloth from his coat to clean her hands. She didn't resist. Asterisk blood and dirt smeared together. But no tears, not yet. They buried Ridge behind the chapel. No prayer, no marker. Just a shallow grave and silence. Asterisk that night. Wade wrote by firelight, a letter. He used charcoal and paper pulled from Ridge's own satchel. Ironic, maybe? Or just fitting. His words were slow, thoughtful, pressed into the page like scars. He folded it, wrapped the photograph inside, sealed it in oilskin. When he turned, Sarah was watching him. He handed her the packet. "What is this?" Asterisk, my. Past. Her eyes didn't leave his face. "There's a cabin just over the Dakota line," he said, voice rough. "Red roof. Pine fence. My mother used to live there. It's empty now." She nodded slowly, not understanding. "You go there." Wade said. Raise her where no marshal dares to look. Asterisk, and you? Her voice cracked. Finally, asterisk, I'm done running. The next morning, the saddle was packed before dawn. He helped her mount. Tied the reins gentle. The Murray Ridge had ridden wood. Take her far, stronger than her own. She looked down at him, eyes rimmed with sleep and loss. You saved me. Asterisk, no, he said quietly. You saved yourself. I just made room. Asterisk, her hands clenched the reins. Come with me. Wade didn't answer. Instead, he turned back toward the chapel. The fire had gone cold. The ashes still smoked. Asterisk, he walked inside and didn't come out. She waited 10 minutes, then rode on. Asterisk, the chapel was quiet. Light filtered through holes in the roof. Dust hovered like ghosts. Asterisk, Wade sat in the front pew, hat in his lap. No gun. No lies. Asterisk, when the marshal's horses came hours later, 5 of them, bristling with pistols and law, he didn't raise. His hands didn't speak. Asterisk, they found him seated, eyes closed. Peaceful, he stood when asked. Offered no resistance. Asterisk, and as they led him away, chained and bleeding, he turned once, toward the east, toward where the sun had risen. Years later, asterisk, the cabin stood quiet beneath a field of swaying gold. A little girl, maybe 6, ran barefoot through the grass, a dog chasing her shadow. Laughter rang out, high and clean. Asterisk, from the porch, Sarah watched, hair longer now, lines beneath her eyes. But her hands didn't shake anymore. Asterisk, inside, above the mantel hung a faded photograph, a man in a ragged coat holding a baby blanket. The corner was burnt, but the smile was still there. Asterisk, the girl ran inside, breathless. Mama, who's that man in the picture? Sarah smiled. That, she said softly, is the man who gave me back my name.